See right there, if okay with you. Thanks for coming in and accommodating. Okay, Sean, we just met briefly in the hallway, but I am Special Agent Dave Horniak with BCI. This is Special Agent Brent Kirkpatrick. We've just been assigned to look into the Walmart shooting from the other night. You're aware of that, and that's why we're here together. We've already talked with Sergeant Darko, and I explained the same thing to you that we did with him, and I've spoken with Mr. Pop about this next step as well. We're a criminal investigation agency. We've been called in by your department to act as an independent investigating entity to determine the facts of what happened the other night. As a part of that, due to the unfortunate death of the subject, there is a potential for this criminal investigation. We always, as a matter of protocol, read Miranda rights to people in your position as being one of the officers that was involved. Okay, so we do it for a couple of reasons. One is this is not an internal investigation. It's a criminal investigation, but not necessarily pointed at anything right now. We are going to read you this and ask you to sign it. Do you have any issue with doing that?
No.
Okay. And are you here voluntarily?
Yes.
Okay. You realize you're free to go from our standpoint if you want to go?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, Sean, I know you're familiar with this, but we typically read it as well as look at it, and it's going to be a couple of parts here, so I'm going to read it to you out loud. Before we ask you any questions, you must understand your rights. You do have the right to remain silent. Anything you say can be used against you in court or other proceedings. You have the right to talk to a lawyer before advice, before we ask you any questions, and to have him with you during questioning. If you can't afford a lawyer, won't be appointed for you before any questioning if you wish. If you decide to answer questions now without a lawyer present, you will still have the right to stop the questioning at any time. You also have the right to stop the questioning at any time until you talk to a lawyer. We realize your lawyer's here, but understand all that?
Yes.
Okay. If you would, please sign, date, and put the, sign, date, and put the time right there. Let's mark it as 109 is what I had, if that works for you. All right. It's 8/8 today. 8/14. Okay, and then one more part. This is the waiver of rights. So this would be this will say that you have read this statement of your rights. It has been read to you. You understand what your rights are. You're willing to make a statement and answer questions. You don't want a lawyer at this time. You understand and know what you're doing. No promises or threats have been made to you, and no pressure or coercion of any kind has been used against you. You hereby voluntarily and intentionally waive your rights and are willing to make a statement and answer questions.
Yes.
Okay, if you agree to that, do the same, and at the same time we'll work, Sean. Okay, thank you. I'm just going to take care of the last bits of getting the witness line signed on that. You mind again, sir? Full spots. Was it convenient for you to come in today?
Yeah.
Okay. Sean, the reason my computer's up here is we're going to show you some video from the store. We're going to talk a little bit further, show you some video from the store. We're going to listen to the radio traffic again, see if that helps jar your memory about anything. Not that it necessarily needs it, but to get us on the same track of what we're listening to and seeing. Okay. Sean, is your full name Sean Williams?
Yes.
Okay. How do you spell your first name?
S-E-A-N.
Okay. What's your rank, sir?
Patrolman.
Patrolman. What's your badge number?
90.
Okay. Is that also the radio sign you use? Call
Yes.
sign?
Yeah.
How many years you been with Beaver Creek?
9.
Okay. What's the extent of your law enforcement experience?
I got hired on March here at Beaver Creek.
Okay, so all 9 years of law enforcement has been here?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. We're going to have a lot of questions for you. Trying to do a thorough investigation and we're just here to gather the facts. Like I said, we don't make determinations about what occurred. We gather the facts from all types of sources, you being a primary source of the information we're going to have, and we present that to the prosecutor's office for their review. That's the way it is. Any of this goes, I don't know if you've been involved in these types of things before, we'll get to that as well. What we'd like to start, if it's good with you, is, again, we're going back to the Tuesday the 5th, the evening at Walmart. We want you to start wherever you feel is appropriate about your initial knowledge of what was going on in Walmart that night, and just tell the whole thing through. We'll try to interrupt you not too much at first, and then we're going to keep rolling back a little bit. Does that work for you?
Yeah.
Okay, so Tuesday night, that's a good starting point. Yep. Start wherever you like.
I was, that particular evening, I was doing paperwork behind Walmart when the tone dropped on the radio.
But, because you were already there before you got a call. You were at the Walmart.
Correct.
Why'd you happen to be there?
I had just taken a crash report at the BW3s right across the way, and sometimes I go behind Walmart because nobody usually goes back there, just to kind of sit and do paperwork, and
okay.
Don't usually get bothered back there.
Good enough. Sorry to interrupt. Go ahead.
That's okay. So the tone drops on my radio signaling an emergency from dispatch, and they dispatched 2 units. I forget which units exactly they were. They just dropped a tone and stated 2 units on the radio. Then they kind of hesitated on the radio, so I didn't know exactly what was going on at first. So I brought up my computer, brought up the call screen, double-clicked the call, and saw that it was at 3360 Pentagon. And I'm like, okay, I'm right here.
Mm-hmm.
So I just immediately started heading towards around the side towards BP, towards the front of Walmart, and that's when dispatch started giving, started explaining what the call was about.
Mm-hmm.
They dispatched 2 units and stated that there was a subject with a gun inside Walmart. They stated that he was waving the gun around, that he was pointing it at people, and that it was a rifle-type weapon, and that he was loading it. At the time of the dispatch, he was loading it, is what dispatch said. So I arrived on scene, and based on the fact that it was a rifle, and that he was pointing at people, winging around, and loading it, I deployed my rifle. I pulled to the front of the store, got out, called out that I was on scene, and I pulled out my rifle, and my goal at that time was to wait for the next unit to arrive, and we were going to go in, basically.
Mm-hmm.
So, so I arrived on scene. I parked by the easternmost entrance doors, kind of by the food area.
Okay.
Because that's like the closest doors there were.
Mm-hmm.
So I parked there, and then we got word that he was in the pet area, which was in the opposite side of the store from where I was parked. By that time, I could see a unit coming down Pentagon Boulevard, another car. So I just ran to the other side to where he parked, and ended up being Sergeant Darko. So as I ran up to him with my rifle, he was in his trunk getting his tactical vest on and getting his rifle as well. As I waited for him to get ready, dispatch said that the caller still had an eye on him, and that he was in the pet section. And then I confirmed with dispatch before we went in. I confirmed with him. I asked if he was in fact pointing the rifle at people, and they confirmed yes that he was pointing the rifle at people. So, based on everything we knew at that time, Sergeant and I were just going to go straight to the suspect. At that point, we were going to go in through the garden center doors, but it was like barricaded by a big metal like gate fence. So we couldn't gain entry through there, which would have been like the closest entrance to the pet area. So we went one entrance to the east, which was closer to like the pharmacy. We were right outside the door, and we kind of gave each other a nod that we were going in. and then we made entry into Walmart. We walked straight in, and immediately the store was very, very crowded. As we made our way towards the pet area, I mean, there were families everywhere, kids walking around. There's people all over the place crowding the main drag. I don't know how to explain it, like the main hallway area, I guess, separating the different departments. It was very, very crowded. So we're passing people, kind of scanning both directions as we're heading back towards the pet area, just to see if we could find the person. I guess I should rewind for a second. They said it was a black male that had the rifle. So as we were walking, like at that time, the particular area we were in, it didn't seem like anybody was too alarmed at that point. Just in the bulk of the middle, right outside the pharmacy, people seemed to be acting normal. So I asked one person just at random if he had seen anybody with a gun walking around, and he said no. So we just kept clearing the road as quickly as possible as we headed back towards the pet area. So we reach the pet area, which I think is like 3 or 4 aisles in the far southwest corner of the store. So we carefully start scanning that because the last report was he was back there. Okay. So Darko's kind of scanned to the left, and I'm kind of looking to the right, covering them, and then we reach the end where there's only one more row left in the pet area. So based on the witnesses, there's a good chance, I thought that he was there to the left. At that point, I kind of told Darko, because there's a long hall to the right as well, so if Darko would have made that left turn to the final row, he would have been exposed all the way to the end of the store to the right. So I told him I was going to cover him to the right while he scanned to the left. So he scanned to the left, and I kind of briefly glanced to the right, and as soon as I glanced to the right, I heard him yell, "Drop your weapon, drop your weapon," in like a repeated manner. So as soon as he said that, I swung around to his right and kind of cleared him so I could see what he was looking at, talking to us. So we were kind of side by side. And as soon as I turned around and looked down the hall, or towards the end of the pet area, I saw a black male holding, what immediately popped out at me was a rifle. I saw a rifle in hand. And I could see the silhouette of a magazine, and it looked like a rifle. So as Sergeant Darko commanded him to drop the weapon, he did not do so. He made, I'm trying to find words to describe this over the last few days. He did not drop the weapon. He made a movement to what I interpreted as aggressive. He was moving with the rifle and was not dropping it, and I felt at that time he had the rifle in a position to where he could have raised it up, or he could have shot either me or Sergeant Darko. And I also felt that if he were to escape around the end and make way to the rest of the store, that all the families and the kids were in immediate risk as well. So at that point, when he didn't drop the weapon and he started making movements with it, I felt that my life was at risk. I felt that Sergeant Darko's life was at risk. And I felt that all the families that we passed walking into the store, and the children, I thought they were all at risk as well. Due to all those circumstances, and with him failing to obey Sergeant Darko's command, I fired 2 shots at center mass at the subject. At that point, he went down and dropped the rifle and kind of almost disappeared behind the end of the row. So we started to make our way, and as we're making our way, I could see the rifle, and I could see the black male, and as we're making our way to the rifle, I could see that it was a rifle.
Mm-hmm.
And as we made our way to him, he like jumped back up and started running towards the rifle again. He was saying something, but I couldn't hear. I couldn't hear anything at that point. My ears were ringing. So he was saying something. I was just telling him to get down, get down, get down, because at that point he was already a threat to us, and I was forced to engage him. And then he was about to come back towards that weapon again.
Mm-hmm.
So I felt just everything about him was aggressive. He came back at us after he'd already been shot, to what I considered to get the rifle again. So he was about at the threshold where I was considering shooting again when he collapsed. He came back towards us at the rifle, and I'm telling him, get down, get down, get down, get down, get down, get down on the ground, and he kind of reaches the area of the rifle and kind of just collapses. So kind of walk past the rifle and immediately scan around, make sure there's no other threats, and I tell him to roll over onto his belly and put his hands behind his back. He was kind of squirming and yelling and screaming, stuff that I couldn't understand, and he wasn't immediately cooperative as far as putting his hands behind his back. I had to get on top of him and kind of pull his hands together to cuff him. When I cuffed him, I could see he had a very serious injury to one of his elbows, and he had another wound to his other arm. I can't remember which arm was which that had the severe wound. So my immediate thought was, okay, he's down, he's injured, there's no immediate threats in the immediate area. Now we have to treat him as a patient, basically, who's been wounded. So I told, by that time, other units were arriving on scene, and Matt Stahl was there. I forget if I told him on the radio, if I told him personally to go grab his medical kit. And I know one of our officers, Officer Bondi, he always carries a tourniquet. Mm-hmm. So my initial thought was I did a quick, I looked him over head to toe, and from what I could tell, he only had wounds to his arms, okay, from what I could see. We even pulled his shirt up, and I couldn't see any rounds to his body from what I could see. Okay. So my goal at that time was to treat what we could see, which was the wounds to the arm. So I had Officer Stahl bring the medical kit, and Officer Bonnie brought his tourniquet. The medical kit that Officer Stahl brought also had a tourniquet in it. So Officer Stahl applied tourniquets to his arms to stop the bleeding to the arms, and he was still making noises and moving as we stood over him. And I just kept giving him words of encouragement, told him to stay awake, stay awake. There were a couple times where it seemed like he passed out or fell asleep, and I just kind of was tapping him on the side of the face, trying to get him to wake up. Wake up, wake up, wake up, just trying to keep him awake and keep him alive. The medics were there probably right when the tourniquets were applied, and we basically just assessed his condition, kept him awake, tried to keep him conscious until the medics could get there, where they have better tools than we did at the time. So the medics got there and started treating him. Mm-hmm. At that point, once they did their assessment, they loaded him up and took him away. And then after that, I met with Darko, like kind of in the side hall, and he took my rifle and gave me his rifle, and I knew it was probably just for evidence, because they were gonna have to take it eventually. So he took my rifle and gave me his. I eventually gave his rifle to Officer Stahl. And then I made my way outside and met Officer Darko outside the doors, and we just kind of stood there until we were given further directions.
Okay. Sean, were you injured at all during that entire incident?
No.
Okay. We'll go back through slowly, and someone's going to jump around when we ask questions, so I know it's tough to talk about and sit through it. If you need a break at any time through this, just let us know. Okay. Were you on regular duty that night? What's your duty shift?
It's 11 a.m. to 11 p.m.
Okay. So you were nearing the end of your shift. What time approximately were you in the Walmart parking lot?
I probably got there some paperwork around like 7:45.
Okay.
7:45.
Okay. And do you recall, just from, I know a lot of information has come out even in the media, I'm not sure if you paid attention, but about the times and so forth, do you recall approximately the time the call came in?
Yeah, it was around 18:20, I believe.
Okay. 18:20 would be 6:20 p.m. So.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
20:20.
It's, yeah, military time gets me a lot too, especially in something like this.
Sorry.
So about 8:20 p.m.
Correct.
Okay, and that is during the course of your normal duty shift, so you had about 3 hours left on duty that night?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, and Sean, are you on administrative leave right now from the department?
That's what the chief told me, that I was.
Okay, okay. And did he say to you that that's part of what typically just occurs in a situation, that's what the department does in a situation like this?
Yes.
Okay. Any officer involved in the shooting just typically goes on administrative leave?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I'll start near the beginning there. You were already in the Walmart parking lot. You said the tone came in for a call to that Walmart, and you said you worked your way around to the front. Is that accurate? Did you walk around or you drove around?
I drove around.
Okay. Since you're already there, did you activate your lights and sirens?
No.
Okay. Did you feel there was a need to at that point?
No.
Okay. Is it accurate that the cruiser cameras, do you have a cruiser camera in your vehicle?
Yes.
Okay. Is it accurate that those are only activated by two means? One is to activate the lights and sirens, and the camera comes on. The other option is to do it manually.
Yes.
Okay. Since you didn't activate your lights and sirens, you didn't have the cruiser camera on, and you did not activate the cruiser camera manually either, correct?
I did not.
Okay. In the front of the store, you and I'm not sure if you said his full name or not, but we just interviewed him, so it kind of went together. You said Darko. We're referring to who?
Sergeant Dave Darko.
Okay. He was the only other officer on scene at the time, at the immediate time?
Yes.
Okay. And you engaged him, you guys met up at, what sound like the trunk of his vehicle?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And do you recall speaking to him about what was your conversation? If you had any at that time, what was your conversation?
The only thing we really said was, we didn't really have an extended conversation. He was gearing up,
Mm-hmm.
and we made our way to the door.
Mm-hmm.
Dispatch was continually giving us information. So while he was standing there, that's when I confirmed with dispatch if he was pointing the rifle at people,
Mm-hmm.
and they said yes. And then we just based on training, we just knew what we were going to do. We're just going to go straight to the threat. So we kind of said, "Are you ready?" And he said, "Let's go." That's it. We just went in the front.
Okay. You guys can't get into one entrance, you go to another one, you get inside, and do you recall either you or our Sergeant Darko giving any instructions to customers in the store?
I do recall, I think he's told a few people right in the beginning to get it. Like, I think there's some people standing around looking at us like, what the heck's going on?
Mm-hmm.
And he told them just to leave.
Okay.
So that's the only time I recall him telling anyone, I believe.
What are you looking for at that point as you're entering the store? What's your thought?
My thought is that we have to, based on the calls, and the situation, and what information was given to us. We had a threat in the store, and there was a threat to everyone in the store. And we're trained to go immediately, as quickly and as possible to that threat.
Okay.
So our goal was to go to where we knew the threat was while still carefully making sure he wasn't in the crowd.
Gotcha.
So our goal was to just move as quickly and efficiently as possible to the threat.
Okay. And you mentioned training. What kind of training have you had in that regard?
Well, 2 weeks ago we had a active shooter training,
okay.
and we went through scenarios exactly like this, where there's people with weapons, people that were actively shooting, and then people that just had weapons in an occupied building. And in that training, we're told to go straight to the threat, bypassing people and containing it as best as possible.
And that's how you would describe what you did on
Yes.
that response? Okay.
Yes.
And so you felt like the training that you even just recently had was relevant to this exact situation?
Yes.
Okay. Have you had, it sounds like active shooter training, I'm not sure if you just responded that way or
Yeah.
not. Have you had that type of training before?
Yeah, we have it usually once a year.
Okay. And again, that training specifically tells you as the first responding officer, if there is a threat or an identified threat, you go directly to the threat. Is that what you're saying?
Correct.
Okay. And you and Sergeant Darko didn't need to discuss that. You felt like you both have been trained on this enough. You're seasoned officers. You're going in the door and looking for the threat.
Yes, that's what we did.
You don't recall specifically yourself discussing anything with giving commands to customers, but you did recall at one point asking. Did you say you asked the customer or
Sorry?
Did you say you asked the customer or something at one point?
Oh, I did ask.
Associate?
When we first walked in, there were just people everywhere, and some of them didn't. I mean, just the one guy asked. He didn't seem too alarmed or anything, so just kind of asked like one of the first people I saw, like, if you see anyone with a gun.
Mm-hmm.
He said no.
Okay.
So that's pretty much the only person I asked.
Okay.
And we were starting to focus.
Okay. Yeah.
On that particular direction and area of the pet area.
What were you? What was your uniform that night?
I'm on the bike patrol, so I was wearing a two-tone bicycle uniform top, white with black,
Mm-hmm.
and then black shorts and shoes.
Okay, well, you're on the bike patrol, but you were in a cruiser that night?
Yes.
Okay. And how's that uniform outfitted? Where's your badge?
There's a badge. There's a plain badge, a plain view. Has my name on it. Has police across the back.
Okay.
I'd have to look at it. May say police on the front
Okay.
as well.
Says police across the back, probably in
Yeah.
reflected material for being on the bike patrol. The Sergeant Darko, you said he got some things out of his trunk when you were staging to get in there. What was he getting out of the trunk again?
He was putting on, when I ran up to this cruiser, he was putting on a tactical vest,
Okay.
which we can carry. It says police on it. You can carry extra magazines and anything else
Yeah.
that you need to carry in an active shooter type scenario. He was putting that on, and he had his rifle, and getting his rifle out.
What kind of rifle does he have, if you recall?
He has we're only allowed to carry an AR-15 style rifle.
Okay. And that's what he had, best your recollection?
Yes.
Okay. Did you have a tactical vest yourself?
No.
Okay. Did you not assign one?
I don't have one.
Okay. So it's just you in the uniform. And is it mostly white, the top mostly white?
The top's mostly white,
Okay. Sean, do you recall either of you identifying yourselves as police at any point during that response?
I don't recall that being said.
Okay. Were you basing that on, is that something you would normally do?
It depends on the speed of what's going on. I mean, when we reached the end, if you're talking about the final, when we confronted him, when we confronted the suspect, he was already giving, my sergeant was already giving commands to him, and that's what kind of drew my attention back to him. So he was giving commands, and I didn't have time really to say anything myself to him before I shot.
Okay. Stick on that for a minute. We might have jumped a little too far ahead on you to keep the flow going for you. You recalled Darko, if we're up to the point where we're at the subject, you recall Darko saying, drop your weapon, is that correct?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Did you say something further to the suspect after that, or before that?
I did not.
Okay. Going back to your training for a minute, Sean. What additional training have you had? Law enforcement, 9 years. You have a lot of training in law enforcement. What additional specialized training and like tactical training have you had, if any?
I've been to it's called FAST 1 and FAST 2. It's a tactical firearms self-defense class OSP. I've been to both of those classes. It's an advanced tactical type course.
Okay.
I've been to officer down civilian rescue, which is like a tactical type response to people down in active shooter situations.
Yeah.
I'd have to look at my file. I've also been, the last year I went to advanced tactical weapons school, where you learn how to shoot various types of weapons, how to respond to different types of scenarios, kind of
Okay.
makes you a better shot, and helps you make better decisions under stress and whatnot.
So you've had additional tactical training, and how often would you say you get any type of training? Would you say every year, every few months?
I probably as far as extra training like that, I'd probably go once or twice a year.
Okay.
But that's outside of our shooting training that we do to like qualify with our weapons and whatnot.
Okay, very good. And on that, are you qualified on the weapon that you fired that night?
Yes.
Okay, what is this specific weapon?
It is an AR-15 rifle.
Mm-hmm.
It is not issued by the police department.
Mm-hmm.
It was my personal rifle.
Okay.
We are allowed to carry our personal rifles
Mm-hmm.
as long as they're an AR-15 style rifle, and as long as our weapons instructors check them for safety, and that we qualify with them. And once we do all that, then we have to get the weapon approved by the chief, and he'll sign off on it, and then we're allowed to carry them on duty.
Okay. And how long have you been qualified with that weapon with the Department of Naval to carry it? Approximately.
Probably 4 years.
Okay. Where's that weapon typically stored? In your, do you have a vehicle every night?
Yeah. It's we have a rack in between our seats.
Okay.
That we can that is secure.
Okay. You at some point chose that as your weapon of choice that night.
Mm-hmm.
Give us the reason for that. You already touched on it a little bit, but go through that again.
The reason I grabbed the rifle was that, from what we knew, the suspect had a rifle, and based on what we knew, that was just seemed the appropriate weapon because if a rifle can reach out really far, then we may have to shoot a distance as well. So that's the reason.
Okay.
Why.
You would only be stuck with a handgun against another type of AR weapon or another type of rifle that may have more firepower?
Correct.
Okay. And you felt like that was the appropriate choice for that situation?
Yes.
Okay. Sean, I know you guys, the department had you take a toxicology test and urine sample took from you, and we got those results. But can you verify for us for this interview? Were you drinking at all that night?
No.
Okay. Were you using any type of drugs?
No.
Okay. Did you feel you were reasonably well rested that night?
Yes.
Okay. Lighting in the store, how would you describe that?
Well lit.
Well lit. Okay. At one point you said that you said there wasn't much discussion between you and Darko outside. You knew what you guys were doing, went inside. At one point you said that you made a statement to Darko inside the store when you guys were clearing the aisles. And I believe you said something that you cover one of his sides. Is that accurate?
Yeah.
Which side did you say you cover? If you recall.
Yeah, I told him I'd cover to the right if he was going to check the final row to the left.
Okay. Do you recall saying anything else between the both of you during that time?
No.
Were you familiar with that Walmart?
Yes.
Okay. So you knew where the pets area was?
Yes.
Okay. Did you ever encounter that suspect prior to that night?
No.
Okay. Have you learned his name since the incident?
Yes.
Okay, and you still not familiar with him? Okay. I think we'll stick at the point of the shooting for a minute, Sean, if you're comfortable with that for a minute. So you told Darko you cover to the right, and are we an aisle away from the encounter with the suspect at that point, or is it right there?
When I said that, we were reaching like the end of the store.
Okay.
Like we would have kept walking, we go into the garden center.
You've cleared some aisles already?
Yeah.
Okay.
So we're basically reaching that final row
Yeah.
of the pet area.
Okay.
Basically the solid part of the store.
Mm-hmm.
We were reaching the end of it.
Okay.
So in that final row is when I had that brief discussion, I'll cover you right.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
And because he was kind of taking the lead as we were going down the aisle.
Is that appropriate to the way you guys have been trained?
Yeah.
Okay. As he's taking the lead, it sounds like what you were telling me is he observes the suspect first.
Yes.
Okay. And you went through it, and you were going through things a couple of times here, so forgive us for asking. He, at some point, is moving, at some point stops, and then we're at that last aisle. So before you hear those commands, is that appropriate? He's moving slowly and then stops right before those commands are given?
Darko?
Yes.
I don't know what you mean.
Okay, yeah, probably poorly said. You guys were clearing the aisles, and
Yes.
you got to the last aisles where you
Right.
encountered the suspect.
Mm-hmm.
Darko, what's your indication? What's your first indication that he sees something?
When he says, drop your weapon.
Okay.
That was the first thing I heard.
Okay. Is Darko taking cover at that time?
I can't say. Like I said, I was covering to the right, and as soon as I heard him say that, I just immediately swung around and basically came and saw the suspect with the weapon.
Okay.
My focus was, I could see Darko out of the corner of my eye. My main goal was to clear Darko,
Mhm.
so he was out of sight of or out of a line of fire, and to focus on the suspect.
Was Darko moving at the time when he told the suspect to drop his weapon?
I can't say for sure.
Okay. But you clearly moved around him, so at some point you're either moving quicker than him or he stopped and you moved.
No, basically I know he was to the left in the aisle and I moved to his right.
Okay.
And we kind of just squared off with the suspect.
Okay. Darko says, drop your weapon, to the best of your recollection. He says it twice.
I can't say if he said twice. He was saying repeatedly.
Okay.
I don't know exactly how many times he said it.
It could have been more, but it's at least more than one is what you're saying?
Yes.
Okay. How quickly do you observe the suspect from the time that he says that?
He says drop your weapon, and then I just, I immediately turned and saw him standing in the aisle with the rifle.
Okay, and what do you recall again about so you see the suspect, how would you describe what you saw?
I saw him standing there, and like I said before, I see him and I see the rifle. I identified it as a rifle, and by the time I identified it as a rifle, Sergeant Darko had already told him to drop the weapon, and so that's how I saw him. He was basically standing there.
You've said this. You gave me your reasoning for what you did. I'm going to ask again specifically. So those commands were given. Why did you pull the trigger?
Here's why I pulled the trigger. He began moving with the rifle in hand. He made what I consider, he took a stance to where I felt he could have used it, from what I could see in my angle, that he could have used the rifle at any moment. The rifle was within his body, within grasp, and he began moving with it. It was like, the best I can describe, just like an agitated movement with it, as if he wasn't going to listen and that he was about to use it, is how I describe it. Based on that, I'm just identifying him, the rifle, and the backdrop, and making sure there's no other people around, and I felt quite certain at that point that when he wasn't listening to us, that he was going to harm people with that rifle.
The call came in as what again? When the initial call came in, what details did you have from dispatch?
I had details that a black male had a rifle in the store. He was waving it around, pointing it at people, and he was loading it in the corner of the store.
Okay. Is that a common call that you encounter as an officer?
No. I've never taken a call like that before.
Okay. Does that cause a heightened sense of alert within you to get a call like that?
Yes.
Okay.
And that's my initial thought before we went in. What I was thinking to myself was, this is Walmart. They sell weapons. They sell real guns. They sell fake guns. We've had calls before at similar stores like Dick's, where people have been like returning weapons, or had purchased a weapon where we've gotten a call, but it wasn't as serious. It was a person just walking with a gun out of the store. It wasn't somebody's waving it around, pointing it at people, and currently loading it. So this was very rare, unusual call, and with all this, with how busy Walmart is and with the amount of people that have purchased items similar, weapon style items in Walmart, I have never taken a call like this before.
Okay. Since the incident occurred, there's been a lot of media on what occurred, and then we now know what the suspect was carrying at the time. Are you aware at this point what the suspect was carrying?
Yes.
Okay. At any time during your response, did anybody indicate to you that the suspect had anything other than an active working firearm that fired actual bullets?
There was no other word that it was anything but a rifle.
Okay. And during your walk through Walmart, did you have any other indication from anyone else outside of dispatch or anything that this may be a pellet gun as opposed to a firearm that fires bullets?
No.
Okay. Having seen, when you first observed the firearm, did anything that you saw or the weapon indicate to you there was anything other than an active firearm?
No. When it was laying on the ground, when I walked past it after I engaged the suspect, I confirmed myself, yes, that is a rifle. You know, that I'm telling myself. Because, you know, you see it, you know it's a rifle, and then, you know, then it's down on the ground, and you're telling yourself, yes, it was a rifle. And no one told me otherwise until like the next day. I thought it was a rifle.
Okay. And it wasn't until the next day, until someone said...
I believe it was the next day, or it was early that morning or that night.
At least several hours after the incident, basically?
Yeah.
Okay. And if I hear you correctly, Sean, you're saying that you, as an officer, have before been called to responses where someone reports a person with a gun, and you've had to use some discretion in determining, you said the call was a little more urgent this time, or a little more descriptive,
yeah,
that there's some movements, but you responded to calls before where it turned out to be just a suspect returning a gun or so forth. So you've had to respond to calls before where there were reports of a gun, but not to the extent of this call.
Correct.
Okay. Sean, when you're in the store and Darko had made those commands, is it accurate where you're telling me that you're saying that the suspect did not immediately comply?
Correct.
Okay. Your additional thought processes were, he's armed, is potentially a threat to you, potentially a threat to other customers, is that what you said?
And Sergeant Darko, yes.
And Sergeant Darko as well, okay. Did you also specify that he had what you thought could be a potential escape route from beyond your guys' hold on that section of the aisle where you could get back in the store and harm
Yes.
others? Okay. And are we hearing you accurately that added to your decision that you felt deadly force was necessary?
Yes.
Okay. Sean, you fired how many shots?
2.
Okay. Is that consistent with your training?
Yes.
Okay. Now that we've had a couple of days, coming up on 3 days to reflect on everything, are the actions that you and Darko took in that store consistent with the training you had that this scenario would be based upon?
Yes.
Okay. When the suspect is down, when you fire, I should say, the suspect will go down pretty quickly?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, and then he does get back up. Are you aware at that time that where the weapon is after you fired? His
Yes.
weapon?
Yes.
Okay, and where was it?
It was on the ground between me and him.
Okay. Suspect gets back up. Is that accurate?
Yes.
Okay. Are you moving toward him at the time after the shots are fired?
Yes.
Okay. He gets back up, and am I correct in saying you said it was an aggressive fashion, or your perception was that it was aggressive fashion?
Yes.
Okay. He's moving towards you at that point?
He's moving towards the gun, like he's looking down at it, like
Okay.
he's about to reach for it.
Okay. Would you say that in that moment you had the opportunity to fire if you chose to?
Yes.
Okay. And again, you've talked this through. Tell us again why you didn't fire at that point.
I didn't fire the second time because he didn't quite get there to the weapon. And that's the reason why. I was yelling at him to get down on the ground, and he just stopped short and collapsed.
Okay. So, again, you thought at the moment the threat was at least momentarily, even for how split of a second, it was neutralized unless he made it to that gun or got a little closer to where you may not be able to recover. Is that?
I'm sorry, can you repeat that?
Yeah. I'm trying to get a little more descriptive detail on your discretion you used in not pulling the trigger for a second instance. So what went through your mind immediately is, it sounds like you had a significant thought process there, that you were aware the gun was not under his control at that moment.
Right.
Although he's moving towards the gun and could be a threat, it sounds like you rationalized that that's what second he wasn't a threat yet.
I consider him a threat even after he went down.
Okay.
I just had it in my phone. If he would have reached the weapon, I felt that him coming back to the weapon was a threat, and if he would have made an attempt to pick up the weapon again, I was ready to fire again.
Okay.
But like I said, as he was making his way towards it, he kind of hesitated or just stopped short and just kind of went down. I don't know if he went down because I was telling him to go down, or basically he went down before he grabbed the rifle.
Okay. In your recollection, he made a secondary aggressive movement towards you and/or towards that rifle, and you didn't fire, and he subsequently went down on his own?
Yes.
Okay. He went down, and you said that you had to, what was your direction to him after he was down then?
What did I tell him?
Yes, sir.
I told him to put his hands behind his back.
Okay.
And he was I told him to roll over. I think he was on his back. I told him to roll over, put his hands behind his back, and he was yelling something. I can't remember what he was yelling. He was yelling at me. And he eventually rolled over, and I told him to put his hands behind his back. And he eventually put his hands out to his sides or down to the side, but I had to manually pull his hands together to get him cuffed.
Okay. And you cuffed him why, Sean?
Because that's what we're trained to do in those situations. He is still potentially a threat to people around him. We don't know if he has any more weapons on him. So we cuff him for his safety and our safety.
Okay. Do you recall the suspect saying anything before the shots were fired?
No.
Okay. Do you recall the suspect saying anything during or immediately after the shots were fired?
Nothing that I could understand. He was yelling something. When he was coming back towards the rifle, I could see him saying something. I couldn't understand it, and my ears were ringing, so I couldn't quite hear what he was saying. And then when he went down, he was kind of yelling, and he didn't say anything that I can remember.
Okay. Let's talk about the response for a minute after that. So after you cuffed him, did you feel that he was at least relatively secure at the moment?
Yes.
Okay. And then what were your next actions?
Our next actions, we secured the suspect, kind of checked around, make sure there are no more threats, nothing dangerous around, and then our priority is his condition. So I believe Darko called for a medic, and I kind of quickly assessed him, and I told Officer Stahl, who was on scene at that point, that we needed a medical kit due to the wounds to his arms. I felt that loss of blood was an issue. We're trained how to apply tourniquets. So I had Officer Bondi and Officer Stahl bring tourniquets, and I believe Officer Stahl applied both of them to his arms to try and stop the bleeding as much as possible. And at that point, those were the only injuries I could see at that time. So we kind of just kept them awake as best we could, and waited for the medics to get there.
Okay, so you were actively engaged in trying to attend to the suspect's medical needs?
Yes.
Okay. Sean, did you make a verbal statement about this incident to the police department?
Yes.
After the incident? Okay. And we're not done yet, unfortunately, but is there anything at this point that, in the time you've had in between that statement, that, and from what you can recall, is there anything that critically you would change to that verbal statement?
No, I mean, that initial statement to me seemed like it was just almost like a brief summary of what happened is what they wanted, so I gave a brief summary.
Do you still feel it's accurate today, is what I'm
Yes.
saying? Okay. Sean, do you have you had prior involvement in any shooting incidents?
Yes.
Okay, can you tell us what that was?
I was involved in a shooting back in 2010, where me and my partner responded to a domestic violence incident, and we, during our response and entry into the suspect's apartment, he jumped up from the living room with a big butcher knife and charged at me and my partner.
Okay.
And he was given verbal command to stop and drop the knife, and he did not, and he was right on top of us.
Okay.
And I fired and shot and killed him.
What type of weapon were you holding at that time?
It was a 6-hour P229 .40 caliber.
Handgun?
Yes.
Okay. And was there an investigation done after that incident?
Yes.
Okay. What were the results of that investigation?
That I acted appropriately and within policy and within law.
Okay. Any other shooting incidents?
Not that I've been directly involved in.
Okay.
Where
Yeah.
I had to shoot.
Anything you've been directly involved in? Okay. Are you saying that you've been at other incidents where other officers have shot?
No, I've just been shooting incidents.
That's a broad term.
Right. Yeah. I haven't had to shoot other than these 2 times.
Okay. Have you ever been disciplined for a use of force issue?
No.
Okay. John, you're being very thorough, and I appreciate that. And you know how this is being an officer, that a lot of times, certain people remember different details, one way or another. If Sergeant Darko were to have recalled that after he gave commands to the subject, that you gave a subsequent command to the subject, either something along the lines of get down or put it down, you said you don't recall making any commands yourself at this point?
At this point, I can't.
Okay. Is it out of the realm of possibility that Darko may just be remembering it that way? Do you think maybe you're just not forgetting? Is it? Can you close it out one way or the other, 100%, or can you not?
I can't close it out 100%.
Okay. Thank you.
And there's still things that are foggy and
absolutely
where I can, one day I'll see things crystal clear, and the next day everything's foggy. It's just so I don't remember.
Okay.
I don't remember saying anything.
Have you given the opportunity to speak with anybody about the shooting, counselor or anything like that?
Yeah, I'm scared.
You don't have to comment on that.
No, it's fine. But yes, I have.
Okay. You went into great detail about the medical situation for the suspect. Did you feel the medical attention given to him at the time was appropriate?
Yes.
Okay. And you went into detail saying that you personally tried to keep him alert and awake. Is that because you felt he was lapsing into unconsciousness and may
Yes.
result in something? Okay. Other officers responded shortly thereafter you?
Mm-hmm.
Is there anything you saw that you would consider inappropriate actions done by anybody for this incident?
No.
Do you believe everybody acted professionally?
Yes.
Do you believe that everybody in the department that arrived, whether from your department or others, I believe there's multiple jurisdictions, do you believe everybody that was close enough made every attempt to save that suspect's life?
Yes.
Okay. Sean, are you aware that there were other medical issues going on in the store, either
Yes.
raised around there shortly thereafter? Can you tell us about those real quick?
Yeah, the scene quickly became very chaotic, even more so because as soon as the suspect was down, we were getting reports of, just from what I could hear, just people going down with various health issues.
Mm-hmm.
I believe, I don't know which officer, they were, from what I could hear on the radio, I was more focused on the suspect, but from what I can hear on the radio, they were trying to get an AED to one of the people who went down. I don't know who it was, I don't know what their emergency was,
Okay.
but we were getting several reports that people were having medical emergencies throughout the store.
Okay. Did you have direct involvement in the attention to any of those?
No.
Okay. So you're just hearing that over the radio and
Yeah.
through other means. Okay. You doing all right so far?
Yeah.
Okay. What we're going to move into in a minute here is listening to some radio traffic and helping you identify what's going on and see if that triggers anything different. During the discussion, we'll watch a little bit of video, but Brent's going to have some questions for you right now next.
Okay.
Yeah, if you don't mind, Sean. I'm going to ask you a few follow-up questions, and it's just because I've been writing notes while you've been talking. I'm not trying to scrutinize anything by the questions that I'm asking. It's just I'm unclear about something and want to make sure I've got it right in my mind, okay? And first one's easy. What platoon are you on?
The name of the platoon?
Yeah. Do you have is it a number?
Yeah,
Name?
I think it's 1. I really don't know.
But you
I'm
work
on like
from-
a swing shift,
Okay.
so I'm like my own.
And do you report to a certain supervisor?
Yeah.
Okay, who do you report to?
Well, at that particular time, it was Sergeant Darko.
Okay, so at the time of the incident, you were reporting to Sergeant Darko?
Yes.
Okay,
And this platoon is platoon 4.
okay. And do you split supervisors? I know you work from 11A and 11P, and I know Sergeant Darko works from 7P to 7A, correct?
Yeah, my first supervisor is Sergeant Molnar, and I'm with him from 11 to 7.
Okay, so since you're on swing shifts, you have supervisors that change throughout your shift?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And how long have you worked on that particular swing shift?
It's been, I think, a year.
Okay. So you've worked very closely with Sergeant Molnar and Sergeant Darko?
Yes.
Okay. And you'll have to forgive me because Dave, when I wrote down some questions and as he was going through, he answered some of them already. When the commands were given by Sergeant Darko, would you consider those commands clear, concise, and audible?
Yes.
So it was, in your opinion, do you think the subject could have easily heard, put it down, or drop the weapon, or whatever command, the exact words that Sergeant Darko gave?
Yes.
Okay. Were there any other audible indications surrounding you that would indicate the police were there or near the store?
I don't understand
Okay.
what you're saying.
Typically when police officers respond, they'll respond with lights and sirens.
Mm.
Did you hear any sirens going
Yeah.
off at that time?
Yeah, I heard, well, when I pulled around, I heard sirens, heard Sergeant Darko's siren, I heard other sirens responding as well.
Okay. You heard those clearly?
I could hear those clearly from outside.
Okay. Did you hear them? And I know a lot was going on once you're inside. A lot of chaos, as you said. Lots of crowds of people in there. Did you hear any of those sirens once you were inside the building?
Not that I could hear.
Okay.
And I didn't press this point with you, Sean. We spoke to Darko, so sometimes that we assume that, other details you have, and we don't bring them out in the open here. You said you're familiar with the store. Sorry to interrupt, Brent.
Right.
The pet section is in what area of the store in directional?
It is the southwest corner.
Okay, is that in front or the rear of the store?
Front.
Okay, so it's, did you enter on the door side? I know you couldn't get in the nearest door, but the next door, Walmart has several front doors usually. The next door you enter was nearest to the pet store. So that's, and that's
Yeah.
close to where, that's fairly close to where Darko staged, because he was staging more near that other open door.
Yeah.
Okay. Sorry, Brent.
That's okay. I'm going to jump around.
Yeah.
Just because of the nature of where I made notations. I believe you said it was a personal weapon that you carried with you, the rifle. AR-style platform. What was the make and model of that particular
I
weapon?
believe it's a Spikes Tactical.
Spikes Tactical?
Yes.
Okay. And how long have you had that weapon?
About 4 years.
And you've already clarified that you've fully qualified with that weapon.
Mm.
And it's been approved by your
Chief.
department, by your chief to carry that weapon.
Mm.
Okay. We also went into extent what type of training you have, Fast 1, Fast 2, Officer Down, Civilian Rescue Training, Advanced Tactical Weapons School. Will all those be reflected in your personnel or training records?
They should be, yeah.
Okay. Have you ever had a chance to review your personnel record or your training record?
Well, I keep copies of all my training certificates.
Okay, so you have copies of all that?
Yeah.
Okay, great. We have been made aware through our investigation that the subject was talking on a cell phone. At any point did you notice that the individual was on the cell phone?
No.
Okay. When did you first become aware that a cell phone was even involved, unless you're hearing it first from me?
I think one of the detectives said something about a cell phone, that he may have been on the cell phone, or that he was talking on the cell phone prior to us arriving, but I didn't see him on the cell phone.
Okay, so...
And again, when you say detectives, you're saying after the incident?
Yeah.
I told you that?
Yeah.
Okay. Did you make any physical observations of the subject, either before and after the incident? Did he appear intoxicated? Did he appear to be on drugs? Anything that gave you either, a visual or,
There was nothing that I saw that would indicate he was on drugs
Okay.
or under the influence of anything. I couldn't tell.
Okay. And I know you got very close to him after, you were rendering first aid to the individual. I didn't know if you made any observations as to those types of conditions when you were rendering first aid.
No.
Okay. And I'm not sure if we specified if something I missed when we were talking about it, but I know when you're rendering first aid, you apply tourniquets.
I'd say Officer Stahl, I would consider it a team effort, but I was just kind of walking. I was just helping Officer Stahl apply them. He had rubber gloves on, was putting them on.
Sure. I don't know if we clarified where those tourniquets were placed.
They were placed on his upper arms.
Okay. Can you go into the extent of the injuries and why you thought the tourniquets were necessary?
He had one severe wound to one of his elbows. I forget which elbow, to where there was nothing there, like it was completely gone. So I knew that was a very serious, potentially critical injury. And then he had a wound to his other arm as well. So with those types of injuries, stopping the blood as soon as possible is critical to survival. So I decided to try and get tourniquets on as soon as possible, try and stop the bleeding.
Okay. Very good. That's all I've got, if you want to.
Okay. How you doing? You need a break or something? Okay. Fairly quick here, we'll listen to the rate of traffic. What we want you to do, you don't have to identify every little thing for us. We want you to identify it yourself. If things pop up, you want to say, hey, that's him, that's this. Anything that triggers a memory, we'll probably stop and ask a couple questions through it. We're going to start at 2022, and that should be the first call on that. Right?
Mm-hmm.
2022. 113 and 96 for weapons complaint. Section 4696. 113 will be available, what is that? 26, go ahead. 3360 Pentagon Boulevard, Walmart, a black male, 6 foot, wearing a blue shirt, blue pants, in the back section, holding a gun, pointing.
Is that the way you recall it?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Yeah. 46, I'm still being around. 2023.
Sean, who's 46?
That's Chris Williams.
Okay. Relation?
That's my dad.
Okay.
I'm at Walmart. Did you say pointing at people? Affirmative, 90. He's in the pet section.
Okay, so again, and before I pause it, she previously identified the location as Pentagon Boulevard. That's the Walmart. You heard that call. This call's coming in saying it's in the pet section. Anything more specific on that I missed?
I mean, that was me.
Is that you?
Yeah, that was me, 90, saying that I was on scene when I asked if he was pointing at people.
Okay.
Is somebody with an eye on him? Affirmative. I have a gentleman who's watching him, so he's waving it around. He believes it's a rifle. I believe he just put some bullets inside. Okay. Scott him first. 90. They're advising he's in the back corner of F.
But before you move on, can I ask, what was your mindset or your reason for asking for confirmation about him waving the rifle?
I just wanted, just for responding units and for myself, I just wanted to nail down over the radio that he was in fact pointing at least that's what dispatch said, at pointing at people and waving it around. I just wanted to be certain that that was the case before we get entry.
Okay. Does that elevate the situation in your mind? Okay. Very good.
And if we heard on that longer transmission, that's where they identified rifle, waving it around, which you clarified, and loading it.
Yes.
Okay.
96 or so. 2025. Or 6 or 7. 2026. 13, myself, 117, 3000. 2026. Suspect down. You're clear, 2027.
That's you. Pop it again.
Suspect down. You're clear, 2027.
Not sure.
I can't tell.
Okay. You don't specifically recall it being you at this point? That's a lot going on in that situation.
Right.
That's the question.
can't tell if that's me
Okay,
or not.
okay, Sean. Okay, so that went pretty quick from kind of, like I said, the traffic goes from one thing to the next there really quick. This is still 2027, this is an additional file.
Hey, which corner of the store? You're clear, 2027.
Did you hear that part, Sean, where it sounds like somebody's saying something close to on your back? Let's play it again. You gotta kind of listen in between. It's right before that. It's right in between that.
Mm-hmm.
Do you believe that might have been you?
Yeah.
Okay. I'll play it one more time just so we get the gist. Oh, no, I'm not.
You're clear, 2027.
Do you think it was you saying on your back?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay.
So 60, 71 contact, 4740. Thank you. 76 for the other one. 76, you're clear, 2027.
And to the best of your recollection, you would have been saying on your back at what point?
I think, I was probably saying put your hands behind your back.
Very good, because that could be, yeah.
Well, I'm thinking.
Okay, yeah, all we could hear clearly was the part about back.
Mm-hmm.
So, I think, you know, with this review, I think what you stated to us is, you think he was on his back, you thought he was on his back, you were trying to get him over to get him cuffed.
Mm-hmm.
But you gave instructions for him to get his hands behind his back.
Right.
Okay, so that's what you recall it?
Yes.
Okay. But in any case, you don't recall any time giving him instructions to get on his back that's counter to the way you remember it? Okay.
Correct.
Remembering caution tape in there, please. Come on in. 46, can we start a medic up there? Affirmative, medic, turn around. It's right outside, needs to bring some caution tape in here, please. Okay.
We're almost done. These look like a couple more.
Units at Walmart, check up. 2029. 70, cancel text. You're clear, 2029. Where you need to take back there in the pet section, first aid kit too, if somebody has one. 113 in unit outside, you need to get first aid bag. Can we get that rolling in the front door? I got it. $118 out of Walmart, security perimeter. 115 seconds. 2030. 96. 96. There's a female customer back in the sporting goods section that's...
It's going into a female customer there. Is it your understanding, so we've heard it calls for an ambulance, at least one call, get a medic back here. Is it your understanding that those calls are for which instance?
For the suspect.
The down suspect that's been shot?
Yeah.
Okay. So everything medical up to this point where we hear there's a down female, or I can't remember what they specifically said, but is everything prior to that point is for the suspect?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Back in the sporting goods section, that's... 96. There's a female customer back in the sporting goods section that's having a medical emergency. I'll need an additional medic for her. Female. You're clear.
A couple more shots.
90. Go ahead.
you have your tourniquet in it? It's out in my cruiser.
Do you think that is asking for the tourniquet?
I was asking 96.
Okay.
To get his tourniquet.
All right, just gonna back it up a little bit. And again, specify tourniquet for what?
For his arm injuries.
And him being the suspect?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
You have your tourniquet in it? It's out in my cruiser. We're good, we can get it.
70.
Okay.
Medics are requesting come in they need a stage.
They need to come in. They need to come to the far left back area.
Well, you're clear. The 2031.
Any more, Brent, that you think you need?
No, I wanted to make sure that we got the tourniquet in there.
The last thing we have, we've had a couple more questions going through, but the last thing is to look at the video and see what happened. Want to see if that alters anything that you recall, or if it triggers any other information. Do you want to take a quick break?
No, it's fine. It's just
Roll through? Okay. And we won't overplay this. We'll actually let you determine how many times we run through it. I'm going to turn this to you, and actually this is a weird program that doesn't stay staged. I think what I'm going to do, we tried before to run, we can pull video from, we've got the video of the suspect down the aisle. From this location, this is the garden center.
Mm-hmm.
You guys will actually be coming up from here. Okay, does that look familiar?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So I'm close to where you guys come in now. It's got to be another minute so I can see that line there. That's actually the young lady that died of the heart condition shortly thereafter.
Can you see it all right?
Mm-hmm.
But however you want, I want you to see it. It's not worry about me. And all you're going to see is your lower halves at best on this. The rest is just response right there. Okay. Might we play one more time and ask a couple questions?
Oh, go ahead.
Doing all right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm sorry, it's hard to get this exactly right. Okay, coming up on it here. First legs, legs we see, I believe, are Darko's. Is that accurate? You circle around him?
Mm-hmm.
That change anything for you? That's all right.
I'm guessing that's okay. And that's in the center of the aisle, I'm assuming.
Yeah, and so you can see there's like a divider there in the aisle. So
That's why I couldn't really, because it looks like he went around the other side of it, so which is why I couldn't really see him.
yeah, this. Let me pause this. Go over here. I'm going to go through a whole kind of rigmarole here. This is the pet's hour right here. Okay, this is earlier in the day. I think I'm going to take you back here for a second. That other vantage point's over here. Does that make sense to you?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, the layout's good. What's going to happen in minute, the suspect with the rifle is going to come walking through here. So this is 5 minutes before your arrival, or before your engagement. And the time frame for you, about the time that we see the suspect, which is there. About the time we see him is about the same time as the 911 call where the guy's giving the detail about the rifle and the waving it around and so forth.
Have you seen this video prior to now?
No.
Okay. I will gladly let you run through and watch the whole thing for 5 minutes, but I will tell you what happens is there he was raising it up again. This is the standpoint, this is the location where he stays for the next 5 minutes, roughly within a little 5-10 foot area, just kind of looking around and making movements with the rifle when he's on the phone. And this is different from your vantage point in the store. We realize that this is up higher, it's to the right. You're coming from a lower level down to the left where you see him. And you'd be blocked off somewhat by this, is that what I believe you're saying, right? For your view until you pied it off or got around the corner. But that's where he remains.
Okay.
Okay. Now we're gonna go to the point where you engage him. You won't see yourselves on this video frame until he's down and you're gonna be walking forward on it. Are you okay with me proceeding?
Yeah.
Okay. It's close to 20 seconds, Sean. Away. Okay, from that point he remains down. That's where you go through the cuffing and so forth. For purposes of obvious clarity, that's you in the white.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And that's Darko in the dark uniform. Okay. Did anything change your perspective about seeing that right there? Is everything recalling it accurately?
Yeah.
Okay, just a little bit different angle, and I believe we probably have a much clearer observation of the suspect from where we're at here than you probably did. Does that seem accurate?
Yeah.
Okay. Is that what you got?
I know we don't have audio. Would you mind if we rewound it a little bit?
Yeah.
I believe we can see a reflection of what is a muzzle flash, and I don't know if you can verify that based upon your actions, but it looks like it reflects off the floor.
Do you know the exact second so I can watch?
It's going to be
Closer to
around
40, 50.
55, yeah.
Is it 55?
45, 54 to 55, I'm sorry. You'll see him startle, then you'll see it.
I'll watch the number for you. When you get to 50, I'll count it down. It's 48, 49, 50, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Tough to tell if it's a flash on the screen or...
I'm down there.
Yeah.
Okay.
Lower screen. And again, we're just looking for, your observations, what you're seeing based upon what happened that evening. lower part of the screen, yes, sir.
49, 50, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Do you see that flash? Maybe it,
What I see is, I see it
right here in the middle of the screen, yeah.
and it's
And it could be a glitch.
it could just be like, it looks like an electronic glitch, but it doesn't mean that's what the appearance is.
Is there a way you just like, you could like pause it when he turns towards us? Can I just look at that? Or, 'cause it's hard to describe his actions, other than I just like to see it.
And again, as Dave pointed out, the camera angle is different than the angle you had,
Right.
obviously lower and farther to the left.
And hold on, I'm gonna,
Do the pause start real quick.
okay, that's at 52. Unfortunately, the controls are on the other side of me. How's the view for you right there?
That's good. When did the shooting start?
About 1 second
That's,
later.
I mean, that's what I remember seeing right there. I remember seeing the silhouette of the magazine, like you can see right there. I remember seeing it's a rifle. I remember him standing there. So that's when I describe seeing the silhouette of the gun and seeing that it's a rifle. That's exactly what I'm talking about right there.
In this instance where we paused it, he's got the rifle at almost a 45-degree angle pointed outward, and not next to his body where he has been keeping it some of the time.
Right.
Okay.
And from your vantage, did it appear as though the muzzle of that gun was coming towards your direction? Do you recall?
The motion was just all like one motion as he like swung towards us. So I mean,
Go for a quick second here, see if we can catch. Okay, so that was just the swing. And it's still less than a second on that pause.
see, like right there. I mean, that's what you see. I mean, I saw him bringing the rifle up. I saw him. That's the stance, an aggressive stance, to where he could have easily, shoot us or any of the people in the store, and that action right there and him starting to move with it is, and
It's at 8:26:55 p.m. according to the Walmart surveillance camera. We got him bent knees, an excitable stance at least, to say one way or the other, and rifles pointed about 35 degrees.
Again, I'm going to ask the same question. Did it appear to you that that rifle was coming up in your direction?
that's what it looked like to me.
Okay, and then he's, 1 second later, he's going down. What more do you want to see?
Can you just play it again?
Yeah.
From there?
Yeah.
Or just play it from the beginning again?
You want to go back before the
Yeah,
whole thing? I don't mind pausing it again as much as you like.
No, that's fine. Just from there, it's fine.
About 25 seconds out. Pause and so forth as much as you like, Sean.
Okay.
Let me slow the part down. a little bit from there. Is your angle okay?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, we're right about 6 seconds away from engagement again here. Let's get that move. He goes down. You're almost upon him. That's where he's coming back up.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And again, you told us it looks like he's running towards the gun. The gun's from this vantage point very close to him.
Mm-hmm.
You're still trained on him, ready to fire if need be, and don't in this situation. And then again, it looks like he makes a quick move to get back on the ground, going backwards.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. But you felt at that time he was going for the gun.
The second time?
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Yes, sir. Okay. Okay. Anything more you want to see again or listen to?
No.
Yeah.
I mean, I haven't seen the video or just been running through it in my head, and actually, I mean, I'm surprised how exact I remember it. I mean, you just, I don't know, you just hope you're explaining it right. What
Yeah.
you saw was true, and then this actually, it's,
Reminds us what you remember?
yes, it makes me feel more confident seeing the video.
Confident in what you saw in your action stage?
Yes.
You're saying? Okay. Sean, did you, I only have a couple last questions, straightforward. Did you make any other official statements to anybody other than the police department?
No.
Okay. The media contact you at all or anything?
No.
Okay. And I asked you earlier about the verbal statement you made to the police department. You told me it was a brief summary of what occurred. And then we still asked a lot of questions in between. Not much has changed, if anything, what you described the first time through. So would you still say that that verbal statement is an accurate summary of what occurred for what, as brief as it might have been, for what you saw at that time?
Yes.
Okay. And is everything you told us today, but to the best of your recollection, a true and accurate accounting of what happened?
Yes.
Okay. What you got?
Nothing, just the typical. Is there anything we forgot to ask you that you think is important? Any important aspects of?
No, I just like to add something that, just the situation was very hectic, unique. It's hard to explain, but seeing all the children and families in there walking around, just completely, I mean, the situation was just, I don't know, it was just a very, I felt a very dangerous situation, just with all the families and the children walking around. I mean, the store was packed. So it's just, just one thing that sticks out is seeing all the kids walking around. So, but I don't know. I just wanted to make sure that it's known that the store was very, it was crowded and there were kids there and families and
yeah, it's, we have to be impartial here, look at just the factual part of it, but it's very reasonable to say there was a heightened sense of urgency on your part, and a potential life or death situation is basically what you're saying.
Yes.
And you've already stated that you had fear or concern for your own life, Darko's life, and customers, including children.
Mm-hmm.
And what you're adding to that is just, you want us to understand that's added into why you took the actions you took.
Yes.
Okay.
That's very much it.
Okay.
Oh, you said I can ask questions?
Yes, sir.
Are you guys in control of media? I'm not in control of media, I'm sorry. Are you guys in control of what you release to the media? Like when is it gonna be released that I'm the one that fired?
We are not, well, it's a mixed question. We are, Brent and I work for BCI, which is part of the Attorney General's office.
Mm-hmm.
Right now, the prosecutor's office is really in control of everything overall.
Mm-hmm.
our office works in conjunction with the prosecutor's office and with the police department if need be. So what they're looking at is protection of the evidence, and it's an open investigation, not getting done that might harm the investigation. The bottom line is Brent and I don't make the call. Our bosses don't directly make the call. It's up to the entities of the Attorney General's office and the prosecutor's office mostly about what's appropriate for the situation, and they make considerations for the police department. But you know, we are working outside of the police department. Is that a fair way to put it?
Yeah, I mean, we're working under the sunshine laws that we have to abide by, and we have been adamant that we don't want anything released regarding an open current investigation with an unnamed suspect. So that's the way we're going to approach it. But as Dave said, those ultimate decision as to what is and isn't released, that's not our call.
Okay.
Okay?
All right.
Hey, Sean, forgive me, you slowed us down. It gave me another question, and we may have covered this. I know we talked about the authenticity of the firearm, and you did, in your question about the media, brought it up because the Attorney General's office did release yesterday that he was carrying a pellet gun. During the transmissions and the radio traffic and everything, that never came up that this gun was anything but a active working firearm, correct?
Correct.
Okay. And you didn't learn it until the next day or at least several hours after the incident?
Correct.
Right. And I know we discussed that again. In our discussion with Darko, we covered that as well. I was blocking in my head. Anything else from anybody? Sir? Okay. And I don't know if we said at the beginning of the interview, but Vince Pop, your attorney, is with FOP attorney, and he's been in the room the entire time. Okay, we're going to call that at 2:49 p.m.